What is up, everybody? Hello and welcome back to episode 3, I believe, of the Zombie Chris podcast. Thank you all for tuning back in. I know it's been a little while since we recorded a podcast, but we had a trip to Orlando recently, got to stay at Dockside. We're going to talk about that in this episode because that was probably the most frustrated I've been with a hotel experience in a while, and I'm gonna explain what happened. Maybe I'm overreacting, maybe not. And we're going to talk about, of course, Halloween Horror Nights, but we're going to talk about that static video. I had a few more thoughts and theories that I did not put into the regular video. We're going to talk about that, so stay tuned for all of that in episode 3 of the Zombie Chris podcast. I tried to there we go. I was trying to make that a little bit more like a Dockside color. I'm thinking the blue with the water, the orange, the sun. Dockside and Surfside. My experiences at these two budget-friendly resorts hasn't been that great. Every time I've stayed at one, I've always ran into some kind of problem at these resorts. I think the rooms are stellar. I will say that. I'll give them credit on that. First of all, the rooms at Dockside and Surfside, they're pretty much the same. There's minor differences in the room, but the shape is the same. If you stay in a suite or the regular room, it's the same. It just might be opposite, or there might be a surfboard or something else in the room instead of, one minor thing. If you don't know, if you've never stayed at a Universal hotel, what would happen generally is they send you confirmation to check in, pre-check-in. You can do this. It's usually like the day of or the day before you check in. You just check in, verify your information, the card that you're using, all the simple things like that. And basically you're pre-checked in, so it makes the process very quickly. I went ahead and drove to the parks early that day, got there I think 8 or 9, got into the parks, just spent about half of the day, and then decided to go to the hotel. This was right around, when I say 1 o'clock, because I was usually check-in times 3 or 4, sometimes you can get early if the room's available, and why not? That would be a nice midday to kind of take my stuff up to the room, relax a little bit. Did my pre-check-in, and the timestamp was around 1:20 was the check-in time. I completed the pre-check-in, headed inside to go check in to see if my room was available. Now, this is where the story takes an interesting turn. Went ahead, checked in. They gave me my room key, but the room was not available yet. And this is what the employee said to me. He said, "It's almost done. Not quite finished, but it's almost there." Keep in mind, this was probably around 1:30, 1:40. I said, "Okay, no problem. I'll hang around here. I can still at least drive and park my car and just head around the resort, just chilling out, whatever." I wasn't going to eat because I was planning to eat the crepe at Universal when I head back there for pretty much a mid-lunch dinner. And I was going to eat that, so I didn't want to eat at Dockside. There's nothing really to do other than if you're going to hang out, go to the bar, Starbucks, or eat. There's not much else you can do at Dockside, so. And it's not a huge resort like Cabana Bay where you can kind of walk around and relax and go outside, stare at the volcano, or walk around the gift shop. It's very, very small, so it's not too much you can do on the resort itself. So I decided, well, it's about 1:30, it's almost done. It'll probably be done in about 30 minutes or so. So no problem there. I ended up waiting until about 3 o'clock, and I decided, would it be rude if I went back in to check in on the status of my room? Because at this point, it had already been an hour and a half. I said, I don't think it would be rude for me to go check in. So I'm just going to recheck in and see what's the status. So went back about 3 o'clock. And then this new employee said, it's almost done, maybe about 30 minutes. So just hang out, here in the lobby or whatever. So I said, okay. At this point, I had already been up. On that day, I had already been up since like 4 a.m. I just wanted to go up to the room to just kind of like relax, take my stuff, maybe take a little nap, and then get energized to go back to the park. And this was 3 o'clock. I said, I'll wait. Waited. And it was close to about 4 o'clock. I said, I still have not received a message to say my room's available. And then I said, it's at that breaking point of, do I just say, oh well, and just take the bus from Dockside back over to Universal and just hang out there? Because I think that day Universal closed, I believe 7 or 8, and then Islands closed like 9. So, I was only going to get a couple hours back into the parks. So that was kind of I was reaching that cutoff time to head back into the park to at least get the maximum amount of time at the park. So I'm waiting and waiting. I said, all right, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet on this one and just go ahead and hop on the bus. And sure enough, 5 minutes after we were on the bus and the bus is taking off and we're leaving Dockside, sure enough, I get a text message. Hey, your room is available. Of course, but this is all just a check-in fiasco of being there and checking in at 1:30 and being told the room is almost done to now it is almost 4 o'clock. Yeah, I gave plenty of time. I was trying to be as nice as I can be with trying to check in and wait. And it wasn't even bad in my position, because I could imagine if you were someone else and you're traveling from overseas or traveling from another state and you're tired and you've been on flights all morning and you have your bags and you just want to get into the room and shower and maybe sleep for 2 or 3 hours and then go to City Walk to get something to eat or something like that. I can imagine how that would be frustrating. For me, I'm not, I was slightly mad at the moment, but I laughed about it afterwards because I sure enough thought the irony in this is that, of course, the room would be available once I hop on the bus. But if you stayed at Dockside or Surfside, let me know. Maybe I am overthinking this. Maybe. I haven't stayed at the more luxurious hotels that are offered on Universal properties, such as Sapphire, Royal Pacific, Hard Rock, and Portofino. Those ones I haven't stayed at, so I don't have anything to judge except for Aventura, Cabana Bay, Dockside, Surfside. Those are kind of the only ones I base, my reviews on and my likings of the resort. So, but anyway, that was my story on Dockside. That was a rather different one. Change these lights. Make it all spooky with the colors. Purple and red, I figured those are the Horror Night colors. So when you see that, it's time to get spooky. It's time to, I don't know why I'm doing a Beetlejuice voice there. But it's time to talk about Halloween Horror Nights. We are in the month of May. Oh my God. When are these announcements coming? I know they're coming, but when? I'm going to call it. We're going to get one at least by the end of the month. We're going to get an IP announcement. Don't know which one at this point, but I assume since we are ramping up and they're going to do just like last year, I wish it was like it was before, where they would announce something at least maybe, March, April, May, June. We would have announcements every month. That would be good. Instead of this slowly teasing and then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, an announcement in May, announcement in June, July, and then here's the rest of the lineup in August. Before you know it, it's going to be the weekend before Halloween Horror Nights. So come on, Horror Nights. We're waiting. So the static video release, we did our breakdown on it. Thank you to everybody that commented, to thumbs up, whoever watched it. Thank you all. That was a monumental good point on the channel. We had tons of love for that video. And so there were two, maybe three theories I had that I kind of left out of the video just because I didn't want to make the video too long and too just drawn out with these theories that I had. So number one, for you, in the end video where she is kind of being possessed or whatever, there is a little music tone that is there. And it sounds a whole lot. You could tell somebody it is Stranger Things running up the hill and they might believe it. I even believed it the first time I heard it. I was like, could this be that? But no, it is actually a track called Death's Workplace, which is on a compilation album called Halloween Terror Disturbia. Came out in 2008. And what's interesting enough is if you look at that, I don't know why they would use this track. I do not know why. It's not like it's a popular track. It's not like the person has any kind of ties to Horror Nights or something. Like, I have no idea why, but what's interesting enough is if you look at the title tracks on that album, a lot between that and the speculation map kind of has a theme going on with what we see on the speculation maps. But like I said, that's just thinking. If you want to check out this track, it's called Death's Workplace. Another reach that I had about this was if we are doing origins, beginnings, we're doing kind of like what is the beginning of something. We kind of had dove into this about Halloween and the Pumpkin Lord. And so my next working theory was, if we are diving into the origins, sinister origins of Halloween Horror Nights, maybe icons, maybe we are doing Dr. Oddfellow, which is kind of the origin story of Jack, because you can't do Jack without Oddfellow because they're kind of synonymous. If we are doing that as the clown house and that is Dr. Oddfellow, what are we doing with the castle and the dragon? I don't quite understand this one. For some reason, it stuck out in my head to say maybe this is Dungeon of Terror, which is an older Halloween Horror Nights house that was actually on a speculation map, I think like maybe a year or two ago that was on there. But Dungeon of Terror is what I was thinking. Maybe this could be a nod to something like that, because when I think of a dungeon, I think of a dungeon being kind of in the basement of a castle. But that, like I said, this is far reach thinking right here. This is not why I put it in the video, because it's just me going way far out there. I feel like they wouldn't do witches back to back, but the whole Satan symbol, maybe that could be like the origin of witchcraft. Maybe. And I did ask you all for some questions a couple weeks back, and you all delivered. So here we go. Any rumors or speculations of what might be replacing Poseidon's Fury? Also, when do you think we'll get our next official HHN announcement? So I'm going to call it, I think it's Zelda. They already have the licensing from Nintendo with Super Mario World. Zelda is just as popular. I don't see why they wouldn't do Zelda as a replacement for that land. It makes sense. There's not too much they would have to redesign. Sure, they're going to have to build, knock down Sinbad and do something with that structure, or build a gigantic soundstage. Poseidon's Fury, I'm not sure what they would do with it. Would they keep it the same, like screen-based attraction? There's all different kinds of things they can do, because it's a gigantic building that they can hollow out, take out everything, and build something massive in there. So I'm leaning towards it just being Zelda. Yeah, that's my call right there. That's my thoughts. Zelda. I think my two announcement dates I'm gonna stick with. It's probably somewhere around that 1819 or the days before Memorial Day weekend, because they know that's a big holiday sort of weekend, and why wouldn't you want to get buzz going on around a Horror Nights announcement, especially if it's a big IP. So somewhere around there is one of those two dates. I'm going to say 1819 or the 25th, 26th of May is when we're going to get. If you were to make a new land for the upcoming Epic Universal Park, what would it be? It's hard because my answer would be like classic Universal. So like Back to the Future, Jaws, Confrontation, sort of the older stuff. I don't know how you would do that, whether it would be like, I don't know, like Universal's like Time Vault or something, like you're going back in time. Don't know if that's an easier pick, because I can't think of like one solid IP that I'm like, they should do this. We kind of wanted to overall encompass that retro Universal love that I have for the old park and put that in Epic Universe. But that's just me. I would love to hear what something you would love to have in there as a new land in the new park. What do you think about the merch over at Hallows Eve Boutique? The last time I went in there, they were going through a weird transition. Some of it is like the third-party vendor stuff. If you didn't know already, some of those t-shirts that don't get marked down, that is third-party vendors. Those are not created by Universal. It's just stuff that's brought in by a third-party company. So a lot of it is third-party stuff. Mostly the stuff you'll find from Universal's in the front part of that store, and it was just Mardi Gras filled stuff. So, I mean, I like when they transition to more Horror Night stuff, because it always feels like you can find little hidden treasures in there and new stuff, as opposed to the regular Universal stores. But yeah, I think some of the merch is hit and some of it is a miss. It's a rather weird store. What HHN house would you like to see this year? Are we talking IP? Or are we talking originals? IP, I can go with Conjuring. I can go with Scream. I can go with Stranger Things. I'm 50-50 on. I enjoyed it when the season dropped, and I thought this would have made perfect for a Horror Nights announcement. But since we skipped that year, and that was last year, my hype for Stranger Things house has just slowly dwindled. Unless I just feel like they're going to put all of what they have into this house and make it like a super mega experience. How likely do you think the rumors of Lady Gaga having a house at this year HHN are? I'm going to call 0. Favorite ride at Universal Orlando? At Universal Orlando. Now, are we talking both parks or just Universal like studio side? Ooh, it's hot. Ooh. It's probably going to be E.T. and Spider-Man, I think, are my two favorites so far right now. I think so. Yeah, I think that's those two. And last question here. When you off to HHN, hopefully the same night, I'm going to say hello and get a photo coming over from the UK. Well, welcome to the States if you do come over. I don't really know my dates for Horror Nights other than opening weekend. I don't really pre-plan them because I have like a California trip. Then we have Busch Gardens, we have Hollow Scream at both Busch Gardens, and we have Hollow Scream over at Orlando. Then there's so many other things that are sprinkled in, Sir Henry's. So I don't really pre-plan. I would love to be a full-time creator and just have that freedom to be like, oh man, I'm gonna be at Horror Nights just about every other weekend, and then I'm gonna be